Well, 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 look who's back from the dead to make another guide. Not just any guide, we got a Gunsmoke Funline guide today. Oh boy, new boss, Deichgraf 2.0. This is going to be another casual 5,000 guide. I'm going to try and show you how to get about 5 to 6,000 points using like very standard stuff, and hopefully explain some of the very straightforward boss mechanics. He's not too crazy. Don't worry about min-maxing it. Some quick disclaimers before we start. Be careful who you're looking at guides for. There are going to be a lot of people making guides and posting videos of recordings, and they will have this buff, and this is obviously going to make a huge difference. So if your platoon does not have this buff, which my platoon doesn't, because my platoon and me, we're all a bunch of filthy casuals. If you don't have this buff, you're going to see wildly different results. So just keep that in mind and don't get caught up too much trying to one-for-one copy somebody, because they might have this. That being said, let's get into the fight. So we're going to use a really standard team. Now, this boss is kind of shilled really hard for Lind. If you have Lind either at segment 0 or segment 6 that you can borrow, it's going to be a lot easier. I have a segment 6 Lind here, so we're not going to be using that. I will show you at the end. We'll do like a quick like where to use and where to stand with like tips and tricks type stuff, but we're going to do a quick walkthrough of the boss with a very standard team. Let's pick this. Mono fire doesn't work too well on this because of how the boss mechanics kind of play into each other, which we'll get into, but fire and water go together pretty well. So half and half, 2 water units, 2 fire units. This gives you a pretty solid starting team, and I think a lot of players will have these units. If not, you could also try a corrosion-based team. You can use, like I said, if you have we're going to be borrowing a segment 6 Klukai for both of these examples. For all these examples, we're only going to go through it once. We use that, and then you can just load in the useless suspects. Mishi, Pritia. If you want to do Hydro, like I said, you could do Springfield with Tololol, but you know, there's a couple different options. I'm not going to go into the team building too much because it's kind of wide open. You could also do just good old Ksenia with, let's say this is a segment 0 Lind, for example, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to use the example I talked about at the beginning. We'll do fire and we'll do water. This is, like I said, a very standard team. Most people will be able to throw together. This is a segment 1 Springfield, though. That's the only thing you need to keep in mind. There's segments on these other units too, but you don't have to worry about them. The only difference would be your numbers will not be as big as my numbers. So let's go over a couple things really quick. I should mention that when you're borrowing the Klukai, you either bully your platoon mates or ask them nicely, your choice, but they need to take off. It's okay to have one fell swoop, but I forgot what the other key is called, but you do not want the key that reduces the AoE size. You want it as wide as possible. I want to say that one is called Nah, I've totally forgotten. It's all right, but you want to make sure that you can use this one. That's fine. The other two don't really matter too much. A strong support is always very important. But just make sure she doesn't have the key that narrows down her AoE range. What else do we have to talk about? Let's do quick positioning here. Klukai can start up here. Everybody else kind of just huddles on this side of the map. Doesn't really matter where. So this is a very standard opener. Let's talk about the boss mechanics real quick. This boss is semi-immune to killing him and semi-immune to damage while these pillars are up. The whole point of this boss is you want to fight and destroy all 3 of these pillars, and then you can finally do damage to him, because you'll see he's got a ton of very, very powerful buffs that prevent him from essentially getting killed. So you're going to use Klukai to kind of AoE down these pillars as much as possible, and then you're going to use the rest of the team to focus down and kind of even out the damage amongst them. Another kind of unique mechanic of this fight is that the stability on these targets never comes back. So once you stability break a target, it is broken for the rest of the fight, which is important because a lot of them have damage reduction when they have stability, so that's another thing to keep in mind. There's a few other mechanics, like these abilities put down cleansable buffs that you can cleanse, just like on Chaos, to get a stacking buff on yourself, but it's kind of hard to do it in this one. It's not as consistent as Chaos, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. So we're going to do very standard opener. The only thing you do need to keep track of is closest and furthest target, because just like in Chaos, you're going to get a buff on those two units. They're going to get targeted for where is it? This one here. Sorry, Mark of Punishment. He's going to pick the closest and the farthest. They're both going to get hit with this debuff, which actually makes them do more damage. So for us, we're going to do Tolol's going to be the closest because water has the bonus. So she'll be doing more damage than Chongju in this case. And then our farthest is going to be Klukai. So let's just kind of run through it real quick. Let's have her come up. I don't have my my loadouts correctly, but once again, it's nothing serious. Turn 1, alt on Springfield. You can alt on this one or this one. I like to do this one because it puts the debuff on both targets. And then we'll just do... for targets that you want to attack, the team is going to be focusing this one here, single target, because this one is resistant to AoE damage. So this one will be the hardest one for Klukai to deal with. By having the team focus this one down, Klukai can kind of focus over here and do most of the AoEs, because you'll see in a second her AoE doesn't hit everything. But she'll be able to kind of deal with this all by herself. If you have Lind, once again, Lind's going to post up and just destroy all of it. You don't have to worry about it too much. But Klukai, which is the one that most people will be borrowing, focus this one down with your single target team. And then same thing here, very standard. We're going to have Tolol be the closest here. The reason we're standing on this side of the boss is because he's going to do a big, long directional cleave, and you want this pillar to get hit with that cleave because it removes this disruption zone. So it'll be a little more squishy for the team to tackle. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side next turn. Okay, so for Klukai, you can just do... Once again, you want the wide AoE, so you can hit as many things as possible. These ones are, like I said, the reason these ones she's going to focus over here is because they like to radiate AoEs out and they hit each other with the segment 6. Now, there's no way for you to hit all of them at the same time. So you kind of, like I said, you're always going to miss some. But on the first turn, you want to at least apply the dot to all 3 of them. So we're going to make sure we clip this last one here. And that'll also put her in position to be the furthest target. After this point, it doesn't really matter. You can, like I said, only zoom and hit those 2 every single time. We're also going to move up a little bit, and you will kind of see why here in a minute. So these things radiate out 2 AoEs on the team each, which, like I said, procs counterattacks. They don't hit very hard. You don't have to worry about them too much. So that was the AoE here that is going to remove the buff once it turns over. So you'll see that this one has lost its buff, the 90% AoE damage reduction. We're going to rotate the team over here, and we're going to do the same thing to this guy, because he has a 90% targeted damage reduction. So the easiest way to do that, he only AoEs in a 3 long line, so you just need one person standing right here, and everybody else just outside any of the 3 lines, and he'll have to pick that target. So let's kind of just post everybody up. Oops, gotta move to here. Come on, let me go. And then we can, I think we're gonna put this, once again, there's a stacking damage buff. You don't have to worry about it if you cleanse these debuffs. It's not, like I said, it's not really something you want to focus on this. This is a little too advanced. So we're just going to put it on Klukai for the attack up. And so we're just going to, like I said, get everyone out of the 3x3 in any direction. And this team, or the single target part of the team, is going to focus over here. And Tolol will have to kind of... She'll be able to get there. It's just going to take her a couple turns because she takes 3 turns. That debuff will fall off. We're going to go a little hard on this one first, and then as we get closer to killing them, we're going to kind of even out the damage a little bit. For this final one, we're going to have to hit this target over here. And then Klukai is just going to continue to zoom back and forth. We'll be able to hit all the important pillars from here. And we'll zoom back. Now, from here on out, the fight is pretty much just going to be that entire process over and over and over again. So we might do a little bit of fast forwarding here, assuming my game doesn't crash. Once again, just put her a little further away to make sure that she's the furthest target. Since there's only one eligible target, he's going to do the line AoE at Tolol, which should hit this guy and remove its buff. There we go. That's all the important stuff you need to do for this fight. Like I said, from here on out, you're going to just post up the team right here. Klukai is going to zoom back and forth, and Tolol is going to help focus down whatever pillar's got the most health. These ammo boxes spawn. Tolol will be grabbing the ammo boxes on this side of the arena. Klukai is going to be grabbing this one. Everybody else is just going to be getting comfy. So let's go ahead and kind of just move everyone back into a nice comfy position so we don't have to think too much. Because from right here, Changju can hit all the targets. And we're going to use a little bit of movie magic here in a second. I think we're going to fast forward through a bunch of this stuff. So, real quick, at this point in the fight, you'll see that this one's almost dead. Now, when Klukai zooms back and forth, it's going to proc the dots on this thing, so you can kind of ignore it at this point. So we're going to shift our attention over here to these two, and we're going to switch over to which one the team's attacking. We're going to probably focus on this one over here, and then try and even the two out a little bit. And then we'll go back to just business as usual. So, if you made it to this point, you are doing pretty solid if all 3 pillars are dead or about to be dead at about turn 6 here. You'll see you're at about 6,000 points. You'll be, like I said, this team has a segment 1 vector and 5 segments on Tolol and Changju, so you might be a little behind from this, but so don't get discouraged, but you'll still be in the 5,000 to 6,000 range. And once the pillars are all dead, the boss loses all his crazy damage reduction buffs, and then it's just a single target beatdown. So from here, we're just going to do 2 more turns of that, and we'll get pretty close to... Actually, we might be in the upper 6,000s. But once again, there's nothing fancy to do. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Everyone can kind of spread out a little bit now if you want, but, you know, just post up, wail on the boss, Klukai zooms back and forth, etc., etc. Okay, and with that, we've kind of reached the end here. 60. Oh, look at the gamer number, 69,000 points. This will fluctuate a little bit, but you know, like I said, if you can get most of the pillars down, you'll be in the 6,000 point range. So, and even with a, like I said, underinvested team, just focus the pillars down. Borrow a segment 6 Klukai. You know, focus this pillar with your single target units, have her AoE this, and that'll get you in the 5,000 to 6,000 point range. without too much fuss and too much thinking. We're going to do a quick skip here, and we're going to talk about some of the other alternate options we can have for the team here. Okay, and really quick, I wanted to go over what happens when you have a segment 1 or segment 0 Lind of your own that you want to use, or if you're going to borrow a segment 6 Lind. The strategy is pretty much the same for both. Once again, we're going to use the corrosion team. Now, if you didn't follow my advice and let's say you wanted to run hydro units, you could run 2 hydro units as well. This is also a very valid team, but we're going to stick with kind of pseudo mono corrosion here, and we're just gonna have Yuhi doing some support stuff, and you will see why, because there's a cool little trick we can do with her. So when it comes to deployment, same usually is you're gonna put Lind right there, and Michi, this is a really good spot because Michi's gonna be in her Dreamwalk state thanks to her new expansion key. If you're running this expansion key, keep in mind you're not gonna be able to control her, so having her just start right next to this pillar is a pretty good spot for her. Everybody else can kind of just go wherever. We'll have Klukai start at that spot again. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit and get everyone into position. Okay, and after everyone's in position, make sure you move Klukai further out than Michi, so that she is the farthest target. And then Lin is going to go last, and Lin's going to post up right here. This is Lin's favorite spot. She's going to be able to hit the entire map from here. If she's running the radio invitational key, you have a couple different options. Obviously, Michi is the best target for it because there's no downsides to it. You could do that, but you can also put it on Yuhi here, and I'll just kind of demonstrate that real quick. Since Yuhi can still do her dance moves with this shackle on her, as well as doing her basic attack and then doing a dance move afterwards, there's kind of not really a whole lot of downsides. She won't get to alt on the 4th turn, but you know, that's a small price to pay if you don't have a Michi and you're desperately looking for somebody to be the target of this key. You can also do it with Changju. I'll show a quick example of that as well. Here's the same example with a Changju. You'll see from this position here, she can hit every single target. After this, you just post her up, and then you can use radio invitation on her instead. She won't be able to use her alt, same as Yuhi, but she'll still be able to do all her support attacks from right in this location. But back to Lind. After she's put the key on someone, she's just gonna stand here, and the entire time she's just gonna alt, followed by her 3rd ability. This alt will trigger all of Klukai's dots, so once again, make sure you hit everybody at least once with Klukai's motorcycle. But then, yeah, overwhelming burst. We're just going to stand here. Once again, this hits everybody from this position, or all the pillars, I should say. And you're just going to rack up tons of damage. Now, if you're a segment 1 or segment 0 Lind, you're not going to be able to do that every single turn because there will be a cooldown on your alt. If you're borrowing a segment 6 Lind, you can spam that every single turn. Alt and then skill 3. Or skill 2. So here's a quick example. So even though we picked Yuhi as the target for this, she can still do her basic attacks. And then she can do her dance moves afterwards to cleanse all the debuffs off everybody. Make sure you're doing the right dance move to do the cleansing. But like I said, that works out pretty well. Well guys, that's the end of this video. Hopefully this was helpful. If not, if you got any other questions or anything, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to join me on Fridays for my stream Friday Night Frontline, you can check out the YouTube channel here. We got a bunch of them from previous streams posted. And you can even watch me gamble for segment 6 Lin. That was actually quite the experience. If not, I will catch you guys in the next guide. So have a great one.